Well, hey everyone, and welcome to video number 1 of our 52 video series that's going to take up this entire year with incredible website tips to help you and your church succeed online. Today's tip is all about how to build a mobile-friendly website that is going to help you engage with new visitors online. So in today's world, most people are going to be using their cell phone to access the internet and do their research online. That means when people are looking for a church in their area, they're likely going to be searching you on Google using their iPhone or their smartphone. So if your website does not have a good look on a mobile phone and it's not properly responsive and it's not mobile friendly, then you're going to put an immediate bad taste in people's mouth when they come to visit you online. So that's why we have to make sure that we have a mobile-friendly website. Now, this can vary from vendor to vendor or depending on what tool you use. Some website tools allow you to actually create a separate version of your website for a mobile device. Now, this can be a negative thing because it can be time-consuming having to update 2 different versions or have to build 2 original sites for different devices. And that's not even including iPads or tablets or even ways that you would view a phone, maybe like a horizontal or a portrait mode. So you can go down a rabbit hole of a lot of different variations you need to build of your website. The best option is going to be a mobile responsive website system. So a builder that allows you to build your website like you normally would, but will automatically change your website's formatting down to a mobile view to make sure that you have a consistent look and feel that you don't have to constantly update on multiple different sizes and platforms. Now for the rest of this video, we're going to break it into 2 sections. First, I'm going to talk about good practices for mobile websites. And second, I'm going to talk about where you should place your content and some things to think about when viewing a site on your phone. So for part number 1, the biggest and most important thing that you want to make sure that you have up to date is your spacing on a phone. You'd be blown away how many church websites I look at on a weekly basis that just don't have good spacing on their mobile devices. You can have your spacing look absolutely perfect on a computer screen, but the moment that things start to change and stack and look differently for a mobile device, then you're immediately going to have some spacing problems if you don't pay attention to them and fix them. What I mean by that is maybe you have really large spacings in some areas, or your text is not the right size, or maybe some images are left or right aligned and they're not supposed to be, and you have that weird awkward space on the left or right side. You want to keep consistency in your spacing and sizing throughout the entirety of your design. Otherwise, it looks like you didn't put any effort in and it's just not a good look for your website and will cause a bad impression with viewers. So to list those out one more time, spacing is huge. Make sure your spacing is consistent. Make sure the space on top of an image is going to be the same on the bottom of an image. Make sure there's room on the sides of your content. So there's space on the left and right side to make sure that you're not jammed up against the walls of the phone and it doesn't feel crowded. Make sure the spacing is consistent, it's clean, and your content has room to breathe. And also make sure that your text sizes look good. Make sure your text styles are the right size. Make sure that they have the proper formatting. Make sure your images and your buttons and all your content is properly aligned to the center, or if you're doing a left or right align, make sure it's consistent. That's the biggest thing you want to do when designing a mobile-friendly website. Then for part 2 of this video, when it comes to the actual content of your site, it's very important to keep in mind the formatting of your phone and how different it is from a computer screen. In a general sense, a computer screen is going to be like this. It's going to be wider than it is tall. It's going to be a landscape piece of paper, essentially. So you're going to be able to see more widescreen stuff than you're going to be able to see tall things. So an image may look really good on a big, broad, wide screen, but the problem is when you go to a phone, that thing turns to the side, and now you have a narrow shape that's much longer. So if you have a big image and you put a narrow shape of your phone over it, it's going to cut off a lot of that image, or it's going to make the image really small because it's not very tall and doesn't fit the perspective and the proportions of your phone. So you want to make sure that when you're designing your website that you're keeping the mobile version in mind with the content. Where am I putting this text? How is this image going to look also on a phone, not just a desktop? And also when it comes to content placement, you want to make sure that your phone version is going to provide instant information for the people that are looking for it. Now what I mean by that is oftentimes if you take a row, let's say a row with 3 different columns in it, on a desktop computer, you'll be able to see at a glance there's 3 different items side by side. But on a phone screen, like I said, we have to put that proportion of a taller and narrower shape together. So if we were to shrink those 3 columns down and put them next to each other on a phone, that's going to be really hard to read. So most of the time, website builders will take those columns and stack them on top of each other like this instead of side by side. So because of that, it takes more scrolling. It takes more time for people to find what they need. So on your church's website, make sure that the most important pieces of information are located at the top of your website without a scroll. Things like service times, locations, call to actions to plan a visit, or just learn more about you. Any information that a new visitor is going to be looking for, that they're going to want to engage with, right? We want to make sure that it's at the top of the screen. So before they even have to scroll down to try to find the information, it's right there for them. And then the items that are in that first 1 to 2 finger scrolls are super important, because studies show that if people can't find what they're looking for within 2 seconds of visiting your website, then they're going to be very likely to leave and find a website that will answer their questions quickly and effectively. Unfortunately, especially on phones, we live in a microwave generation now where people see constant, quick content and they have a very short attention span. So on a phone, you want to make sure that you're giving them as much content as possible, and it's going to look good and consistent and make a great lasting impression. And if you do this well, they're going to be off to the races on having a wonderful website on your phone that's going to reach more people in your community. That's all for this week's tip. We will see you next week, and we are excited for this new series of 52 website tips. We'll see you in the next one.